CalExit, The Golden Guide to Independence, co-authored by myself and Mr. Marcus Ruiz-Evans. He is our president and spokesperson. I'm the CEO and head. We wrote the book together to help explain to people, both in California and out, what it is that we're doing, what the legality of it all is, and that it is actually 100% legal. It's all peaceful, it's all legal, it's based on law.
So we don't need a civil war in order to become your own country.
Correct. Most people that we talk to would rather not have a civil war, and breaking away from the Union is part of the way to avoid having a civil war, because California's 40 million people, roughly 10 to 12% of the entirety of the American population. That is a big enough chunk that, it stands to reason we should have 10 to 12% of all of influence in America coming from California. But when you look at the whole and the way America's supposed to be, it's not right for California to impose on Arizona, Nevada, Texas, Florida, Colorado, New Hampshire, right? North Dakota.
So if California, in your view, if California did become its own country, what would be some of the positives?
So California is one of the largest agricultural entities in the entire world. The entire planet Earth. More food and edible products are produced in California than almost everywhere else. We produce more rice than China. We produce more corn than the entirety of the Midwest of the United States. We produce most of the world's pistachios. In fact, of the top 10 most in-demand goods, produce goods of the world market, California is either first place or second place in producing those. We regularly do not sell all of our goods because we don't get to set the prices, who we can sell to. We don't get to control our trade. A little bit, but mostly our trade is controlled by the federal government of the United States.
So they tell us what to do basically when it comes to that.
Yeah, and they, California dairy farmers produce a bunch of milk and cheese and butter, and then America says, oh wow, it'd be really nice to have all of that in our stocks. So you can't sell that to anyone. And if you're going to sell it, we're going to demand you charge this much. So unreasonable. Nobody on planet Earth is going to pay for that. Especially when you can get the same thing for 1/80th of the price. So what happens is California then has only one other place where it could sell it and still make at least some pennies on it rather than absolute zero and hardcore loss. And that is sell it to the FDA.
Okay, let me ask you this.
I'm sorry. Let me correct that.
Go ahead, correct it.
That is sell it to the USDA.
USDA.
Yes, most USDA goods are California.
Why do you want California to be its own country?
Well, so there is the financial, right? We've talked about trade goods and how much we lose by not being able to sell, not being able to put reasonable prices so that we can get our goods out on the world market and help get food out there where it's needed, and maybe there'll be less world hunger. The United States doesn't seem to care about that. They care about keeping the USDA stocks full, overflowing, and then just keep giving out low-grade government cheese to everyone who's living in a van down by the river, if you get that reference.
Chris Martin, go ahead.
Yeah, the greatest. That's the economic. The financial would be that the US dollar is just plummeting, they're printing more and more, while also sending away more and more overseas to all sorts of varying places, not just Israel and Ukraine. It's all over the board. The United States is sending money, and California, like roughly 1/3 of California is homeless, and it's growing. And so many people have lost their jobs, their livelihoods. Mom and pop shops went under during the pandemic. So many different industries collapsed and haven't come back, haven't picked back up.
Now, I'm gonna make this a two-part. First part, why would America want California to become its own country? And then the second part would be, why would Californians who live here want California to be its own country? Go for it.
America doesn't know that it needs California to be its own independent entity again. Most Americans don't want California to go be independent because they think that it's illegal. They're under false precepts, false pretense. Thank you. They're being lied to, and they usually don't go and look it up for themselves. Most of the stuff that we reference can easily be Googled up in like 5 to 10 minutes. You can find a federal database. If you don't trust mainstream news sources because they have their own personal biases and whatnot, go straight to the federal government, the creator of the law, and look at what the creator of this law has to say in this law.
What's that law you're talking about?
Well, so a lot of people say Texas versus White says you can't secede.
Which is a Supreme Court
Which is a
decision.
Supreme Court decision from right after the Civil War ended.
It does say that you can't.
It says you can't unilaterally secede, and that there are only two ways to leave the Union. One is through rebellion, violent insurrection, force, revolution. The other is with consent of the states. Then it goes on to say that a state may not unilaterally secede. You can't just say, you know what, I woke up this morning and I'm tired of it, I'm out.
Can't do that.
Can't do that. That's not how it works.
Mm-hmm.
You want to cut ties, you got to do it the right way, make sure that, boxes are checked, I's are dotted, T's crossed.
But those two options you gave, one of them, nobody wants a civil war.
Correct. And
so
the Supreme Court made it very clear that that is not legal. The only legal way is with consent of the states.
So there's an illegal way and there's a legal way. And CalExit is pursuing the legal way.
Yes.
Okay.
We wish to get the consent of the states, which is why we are trying to educate the rest of the state's voters that California does actually unduly influence the rest of you. We do. We have almost 40 million people. We have a population almost the size of France. Like, you can't have an entity that has the population of a country and the economic output of a country and the societal self-identity of a country. How many Californians do you know that go around and say, oh no, I'm not a Californian, I'm an American? Not that many. I've met a few in my 38 years, but usually it's the other way around. Well, I mean, technically, yes, I'm an American because California is still part of America, but I'm a Californian. First and foremost, I am a Californian. When I sign off on emails for CalExit LLC, I sign off eternally Californian.
Okay. So, pursuing the legal route that most people don't know about, you say. So look up Texas versus White, people out there, if you want to read it. It says, according to Jason here, it says you cannot unilaterally do it. The only way to do it is with consent of the states. That means other states, Texas, New York, Wyoming, all these places have, how many of them would have to according to this law? All of them?
Well, it doesn't actually say. It does not specify. It only specifies that there is only one legal way to leave the union, and that is with consent. It has been posited by constitutional scholars that a simple majority, 51%, could be enough because all it takes to get a state to become part of the union is 51%. Because again, there is no defined threshold mandate. So if it takes 51% to get in, it should only take 51% to get out. Why would you, that it wouldn't be legally just if it takes 51 to get in, but 100% to be able to get out.
Oh, so you're basing it off of that. That makes sense, okay.
Well, and that's not according to me, that's according to constitutional scholars who've made a lifetime of studying the United States Constitution and our laws, and
Wow.
This is what they have come to.
Okay.
And also, the thing of Texas versus White, it's not actually according to me. That's according to the Supreme Court of the United States of America. It makes it very clear. Yes, I'm telling you this is what it says, but when you go and look it up, and don't just Google search it because it will pop up a Wikipedia thing that only shows you one tiny little piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
Go to a federal government website, look at the actual ruling. They have it there. You
Really?
can see, you can even download PDF digital copies of it.
Okay, so California seceding. This is what I'm hearing. It is not a cynical objective. It's not something where it's out of anger or hatred with America or hatred with other states.
Correct. It's based on fairness and justice. It is unjust to the rest of the United States to have us unduly influencing them. Texas shouldn't have to implement California law. That's not going to work in Texas. They're Texans, they're not Californians. They don't, mostly, they're probably not holding inherent California values. They probably more likely have inherent Texan values. Or like Florida, inherent Floridian values, not inherent California values, and that's okay. That's their right, and that's their freedom, both as an American and as a human being. As a Floridian, they can be a Floridian and be Floridian. I don't have a problem with that.
And would California be part of some sort of North American Union? I know that's already been coined, but something like that?
It's an interesting question because we've actually been invited to join the European Union.
Oh, really?
There are countries that are not in Europe that are part of the European Union. Most people don't know that. It's not only for Europe. It's a global union. We have been told, CalExit LLC has, myself as the CEO, head of CalExit, very personally have been informed by European folks. I'm not going to say too much because I don't want anyone to get in trouble, but it has been made clear that we, just like Scotland, would be more than welcome in the European Union. Once we're our own independent entity, we can gladly go and apply, and they would likely accept us.
But to the second part of that question, how does it help Californians? Because wouldn't we lose a lot of federal funding? Wouldn't we lose cohesiveness and help that we do get, maybe from wildfires and stuff like that, which do we even get?
Yeah, I was gonna say, think about that one real quick,
Think about
brother.
what you're saying.
Did they actually help us with the wildfires? Did they actually help us with the floods? Did they actually help us with anything? Really? What federal money? We pay trillions, and they give us back, oh, you can have a little bit here and a little bit there.
Wait. Expand on that a bit, because a lot of people don't know that.
California makes $3.6 trillion net GDP.
I hear this number like California is the 5th largest economy in the world.
Yeah.
5th or 6th, and it fluctuates around there.
And that's an amazing statistic that I love to point out to people, because the way that it's pointed out is usually vastly incorrect.
Okay, go ahead.
They usually put United States as like number 1 or number 2, and California down at 5.
Okay.
And that's because the United States gets to calculate California into it. Not only that, but the California as the 5th is California on its own, all alone, 5th largest economic entity of the entire planet.
It's going up against other full countries.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Other really big, high production companies.
So who would you say is after California in that? So, like maybe.
After that is like Germany, France.
So we have a bigger economy than Germany and France?
Yeah. So California being the 5th is based on the numbers from a couple years ago, right? When that whole thing started getting pointed out. California as it was, while being subjugated by the United States federal government, while being siphoned and leached and bled dry by the United States federal government, was the 5th largest agricultural and economic entity of the entire planet, Earth. Imagine California without all of our leeches, without being bled dry, without having all of these constraints saying, no, you can't sell your goods. So we would lose federal tyranny, we would lose overtaxation, we would lose out on inadequate representation, we would lose out on a lot of racism, a lot of sexism, a lot of xenophobia.
So this whole CalExit idea, a lot of people think it's far-fetched. I think it is far down the line. What is your steps? What is your next step? How are you gonna get this even going? Is it just promoting it and giving people the information? Once they have the information, they're gonna want it. And then what's your next kind of initiative that you're working on?
Well, I would point out that it's only far-fetched if you think having majority support of the voters is far-fetched.
Right. Okay. And so military, somebody attacks us.
Yeah. California has its own military forces, its own navy. We have our own commander-in-chief. Our commander-in-chief is not Joseph R. Biden. Our commander-in-chief currently is Gavin Newsom. When the governor of California they swear the oath and they take that seat and they take that title, they take 2 titles. Governor of the state of California and Commander-in-Chief of the Republic of California.
We got to get going, but thank you for everybody who's watching. Thank you, Jason, for joining me.